Hey, you beautiful beings. Welcome to Empowered Human with Nina Garcia. I am your host, and you are listening to the throwback episodes. Yeah, I have officially taken a pause on creating new episodes for the podcast so that I can focus on writing the book. It became very clear that while I have loved doing the podcast, I'm getting these episodes out every week to you all piecemeal. I was like, no more, no more. You all were like, please, please, can you get us all those skills and tools, Nina, in one area so that we can do the empowered human journey, so that we can really see what it's like from start to finish, to which I say, yes, absolutely. Let me get this to you. Yes. So what you're going to be hearing is this. You're going to be hearing throwback episodes from all 6 seasons, okay? It's not going to be every episode, so don't freak out on me yet. But it is going to be some of the episodes that were highlighted, that were popular, that we think, maybe you all missed and we want to bring it back. You're going to be hearing throwback episodes, and I am going to be listening along with you. I too want to hear about the journey and experience the journey that I had as we moved from Triggered Can We Play With That, the original podcast, all the way to Empowered Human with Nina Garcia. So you're going to hear personal stories. You're going to hear interviews. You're going to be given skills in every episode. Yes, you're going to be given tools in every episode for you to become skilled in. It is totally up to you whether you want to listen. If it's not the episode for you, skip to the next week, right? You just take what works for you, leave what doesn't. And if there's some stuff you're curious about, why don't you just go ahead and put that on the shelf? The podcast has always been about putting resources in the hands of people without needing to pay for it, right? And so this is no different. Even with these throwback episodes, what you're going to hear is this. We're going through, just as I said, you're going to still hear me talk at the beginning of each episode, letting you know, hey, we've had a transition. You're going to hear the original intro to the episode. You're going to hear the show music, and then you're going to hear the full original episode. This could mean that dates are off, that times are off, that people are talked about, that may no longer be in our lives, right? Just be aware of that. At the very end of the episode, you're going to see this face again come back to remind you that it was a throwback episode and to maybe offer you some adventure challenges as you move from week to week, right? Though the format of the episode did change over the years that we've done this podcast, the value is still there. So if you like something, definitely hit me up on Instagram at dramatherapist Nina and be like, Nina, I love that throwback episode about XYZ thing. Yes, fill in the blank with that. Let me know. And if there's something that you're looking for in the meantime, also hit me up on Instagram at dramatherapist Nina and let me know. Otherwise, stay curious and enjoy the ride, folks. I'll be right along there with you. Welcome to Empowered Human, the dramatically playful podcast that invites you to heal humanity, the one within you, me, and the world at large. I'm your host, drama therapist, empowerment specialist, and not to mention empowered human, Nina Garcia. And I'm so stoked you're joining me on the journey. Every Wednesday, you are invited to explore transforming from powered to empowered with genuinely human stories of courageous existence, healing from invalidation, and truly belonging to you. So wherever you are on the spectrum, from empowerment curious to empowered human ambassador, this podcast is designed to humanize. Get ready to lean into your edge, heal your worldview, and finally belong to you. This is Empowered Human. Join me. Let's take a breath. So in last week's episode, we talked a lot about perspective. I talked about how, as a drama therapist, one of the greatest gifts I have to offer people is the gift of perspective. My window of tolerance, having been well honed in dealing with all different types of people from all different walks of life, tends to be a bit larger than the average person. And for those of you who don't know what window of tolerance means, I will describe it as such. It is my ability to tolerate, accept, work with, and empower more things as opposed to less. And I've practiced and honed and trained and educated myself because I believe that that's important. as a therapist. So, knowing this, we move into this week's episode, which deals with judgment. And I think last week's episode is a really good place to start on perspective. Otherwise, let's dive in this week. So, why is it important to talk about judgments? What does it even mean to judge something? So, judgments help simplify things, right? Things can be good or bad. You should do that, or you shouldn't do that, right? Judgments provide a quick way to make sense of the world. If I walk over to some type of food and I say, that food smells so bad, ugh, I bet it tastes even worse. Hashtag judgment, right? The idea that if it smells bad, it must also taste bad. Or, that man's pants are too low. He obviously can't take care of himself. Somehow drawing a connection between the fact that that man wears his pants a little bit low, that he might also not be able to take care of himself. Judgment. So here's the problem with judgments. They don't always match up to reality. So if we go back to the two examples we just did, let's say I see papaya and I cut open that papaya. Now, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I do not like the smell of papaya. It smells like throw up to me, and I am not exaggerating. But if I put papaya into a smoothie, I can drink it, and that stuff tastes good. So if I jump from the judgment of it smells terrible to it also tastes terrible, it simply did not match up with reality. It would not have been true. Same thing with our second example. Let's say you see a man. Let's say his pants are too low. How many famous men living up in mansions still rocking their pants too low? It's a stylistic choice, not necessarily something that says they don't know how to take care of themselves, right? We can't necessarily make our judgments match up to reality. Another problem with judgments, they suggest the world as a whole should fit into our box of understanding. It stops our box of understanding from being molded by observing the world as it is. So, judgments can be super helpful, but we're going to talk today about the judgments that aren't. And here's an example. There is someone I love in my life. I have known them for quite a while. They are a beautiful person inside and out. If you were to meet this person, you would think, what a role model. What a bright, powerful woman. This woman has traveled, has done things, has changed lives, and changes lives, in fact, every day with what she has chosen to do as a career. Now, because we're going to be using a moment that I have had with this woman, we're not actually talking about this woman and her beliefs as a whole. We're talking about a moment that I had with her that characterizes an idea that we're going to be talking about today. So when we talk about this character and their beliefs, we're talking about Charlotte. Not the person as a whole, but this moment that is now being characterized for the remainder of this episode as Charlotte. Because the material that we play with in Triggered, Can We Play With That, can be triggering, it's important to know that we are ready to play with this today. We're not going to take it personal. And if you find that you are triggered, it's a great opportunity to use this as a teachable moment. What is bigger or older than this conversation that is really being triggered? So, without further ado, let's launch in. Charlotte and I were sitting around a fire on a cold night. The sound of cars were far in the distance. It was a really lovely night. I had on a big old coat. It's so rare for it to be cool out, especially in Texas, but it was. It was a lovely, crisp night. And of the many things we talked about that night, kids, marriage, careers, and of course, COVID, because when can we not stop talking about that these days? The concept of sin and gay couples came up. Now, for those not religiously inclined, if you go to Google, sin is literally defined as an immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law. So to be clear, this is now a judgment container, setting up both what belongs inside the container and what belongs outside. So one moment in particular stood out to me. We're having this conversation, and keep in mind, I'm having to do mental gymnastics because me and Charlotte, we have very different ways of looking at the world, right? We talked about how I'm a drama therapist, blah, blah, blah. Charlotte's not. So we have very different ways of looking at the world, which is much what you were probably experiencing in your own world. Sometimes you come across people who have very different ways of looking at the world. So there's one moment in particular in our conversation that stands out to me. And it's this moment around sin and gay couples. And so as we're talking about this, I'm trying to think like, wait a minute, are we saying that, in the box of like human beings and all of the heterosexual people go in this, like, this is normal and not sinful for them to be together? Do we put all the gay people outside of the box? Like, does that make them evil? And so I ask that because I'm trying to figure out what goes in the box, what doesn't go in the box for Charlotte. And Charlotte's response is, I don't think gay people are evil, right? And I say, okay. So I take my gay people that were outside the box and I put them back inside the box. And I'm like, okay, they're not evil, they're good. Okay, I've got this. Like, God created everyone in this box, which means they are naturally designed this way. They are naturally attracted to people of the same sex. Okay, got it. Then she goes on. It's just being intimate together that's a sin. And I go, okay, wait a minute. So now I'm going to take my gay people outside of the box if they've been intimate together. But if they've never been intimate together, then they can stay inside the box. Okay, so judgment inside the box, judgment outside the box. Okay, I think I've got the understanding of how this works. But then she goes on. Those parts just don't go together. And I think, wait a minute, wait. Those parts just don't go together. What if you're intersex and you have an atypical arrangement of otherwise healthy, vibrant reproductive organs? What if you're not the typical? Does that also mean that you go outside the box if you're intimate, but again, that's how you were naturally developed? Or do you get to go inside the box because that's how you naturally developed and you have multiple parts, so you get more choice than the rest of us as to who you can be intimate with, right? I am doing some serious mental gymnastics here, y'all. Because, of course, my little therapist self came out and was like, how do I sit here with non-judgmental stance and like accept that this is the way someone else sees the world? And so she goes on. And I've lost some gay friends because of my beliefs, but I also have some gay friends who stick by me and they get it. And I think that was really important to hear because it leaned a lot more perspective than Bashir or I could even offer, in that apparently one of three things. There were gay people out there who had been intimate with each other and were okay with believing it was a sin. There were gay people out there who'd never been intimate with each other because they never wanted to sin. Or there were gay people out there who didn't believe it was a sin and so couldn't belong inside or outside the box. And oh my gosh, the amount of mental gymnastics I was trying to do to figure out how to connect this inherently limiting belief to my own expansive set of beliefs. Now, this podcast episode is not going to be about whether Charlotte was right or wrong. Because guess what, folks? We're playing with judgment and non-judgmental stance. And a lot of us are very good at judging. The tool from today that you should be taking with you is non-judgmental stance. How do you practice not judging in such a way that it doesn't mean you change your beliefs or who you are, but it means you don't get triggered by something that is bigger or older than the moment, which leaves you in such a way that you are dysfunctional in your way to communicate. We want to keep you functional and online. This conversation and this quote, and I'll say it all together here, this quote from Charlotte, this moment stood with me for 2 days after this conversation. I just kept hearing, I don't think gay people are evil. It's just being intimate together that's a sin.
those parts just don't go together. And I've lost some gay friends because of my belief, but I also have some gay friends who stick with by me, and they get it. It stuck with me for days. I couldn't get off it. And I couldn't get off it because I was not a therapist in that moment. I did not have my non-judgmental stance hat on. I loved this person. I was not expecting this moment, as many of the things that are triggering for us. And I was stuck in a loop. I was yellow flagging. It was disrupting my day. So I'm sitting with it and I think, gosh, it just keeps coming back. I'm trying to put it to the side and it just keeps coming back. I need to acknowledge that there is a part of me, Nina, who is judging Charlotte's belief because my belief is different. And I thought to myself, I really am not going to change Charlotte. And what I want for myself is to not be so triggered by this. So what do I do for myself? How do I take care of myself? Because judgment ain't helping. Now, as I go through the next steps of how do I practice non-judgmental stance in this moment, it's important to know that we don't practice non-judgmental stance because we don't want to change the world. I stand by my beliefs and what I believe in every day. We practice non-judgmental stance so that we can offer ourselves the gift of clarity and perspective to be able to make more effective decisions on how to make change in the world without being clouded by our emotional state. Here's how I practice non-judgmental stance. Step 1, you got to notice. I have to notice that I am stuck in a judgment loop. I am yellow flagging triggered. It's disrupting my day. Step 2, ask myself, is it hurting myself or others? Is it helping myself or others? Constantly ruminating on someone else's beliefs that are different from mine is definitely not helping me. It is definitely disrupting my workday and my personal thoughts. So something's got to change. Step 3, replace the judgments with facts. And in this case, here are some of the facts. My beliefs are different than Charlotte's. Fact. I believe that being intimate, consensually, with another adult, if it is helpful for both you and that person and does not hurt you or that person, is safe. Step 4, acceptance. I accept that we see the world differently. Also that it's okay for me to be disappointed with someone else's views and not judge that I am disappointed. I accept that I do not have to change the way I see the world in order for me to love this person. And I do not have to change the way they see the world in order for me to love this person. Step 5, proceed with clarity. And the clarity was this: I am who I am. I love people as people. And if it doesn't hurt them or others, and if it may in fact be beneficial to them and others, then that's okay. We've come to the end of the episode, and I'm wondering, what's your takeaway? For those of you who enjoy a bit of self-exploration, I'll leave you with this question exploring judgment and non-judgmental stance. When you witness yourself judging this upcoming week, and remember that could be good or it could be bad, how can you engage in non-judgmental stance just to practice the skill for when you may really actually need it one day? Step 1, notice. Step 2, is it helping or hurting? Step 3, replace your judgments with facts. Step 4, accept the reality of the situation. Step 5, proceed with clarity. So I expect a lot of us will have a lot to say on this episode. Many of you have been messaging me or emailing me afterward to say things, which I'm always open to, but I hope that you'll notice throughout this episode, what we're trying to do is not say if something is right or wrong. We're trying to have teachable moments so that we can move forward with clarity on who we are and how we choose to interact in this world. Because it is, after all, beliefs or no beliefs, a choice.
It's me again, reminding you that this was a throwback episode. I hope that you were able to take something from it, even one little nugget of wisdom, and use that between this week and next week, right? The purpose of these episodes is to give you tools. It is up to you to decide whether you want to become skilled in them. You picking up what I'm putting down? So take a tool, take something, a perspective, a moment, something that works for you, and use it in your life to transform hard conversations into teachable moments, to transform the way that you play with scary moments, right? To transform your life, to help make you the most courageous, most healing-oriented, most belonging person, right? No matter where you go, that you belong to yourself everywhere you go, right? Courage, healing, belonging, whatever it is that you are taking from this episode, take it with you so that you can get out there and live your most vibrant life, you beautiful human being, okay? All right, I'm signing off for now, but I'm gonna see you soon, okay? I'm gonna see you real soon. Bye for now. Thank you so much for being willing to explore healing your humanity on Empowered Human. I hope you found at least one new way to transform your worldview from powered to empowered. If you took something from the show, please take a moment of your time and subscribe to Empowered Human. And if it really nourished you, leave us a review. Your feedback helps me understand what our community needs. Not to mention, it helps others discover the empowered human life. So keep this last bit in mind. All the visual goodies come with me on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina. Stay up to date there on upcoming episodes, behind the scenes goodness, and reels dropping knowledge. Thank you again for being part of the empowered human community. Until next time, stay curious.